In fiction, there are two types of AI. The type that becomes omnipotent and turns evil, and the type that is used as an allegory to explore human emotion or discrimination. In the world of Zenless Zone Zero, they do both. Kind of. We haven't had a Skynet yet, but come on, it's gonna happen. Today, however, we're going to be talking about the second type of AI, which Zenless portrays through what they dub intelligent constructs. We'll be going over what we know of their history, their politics, and of course, every known and named intelligent construct across the game. All of them this time, unlike my Thyron video. And so put away your C-words and other robot insults as we delve into the kind of AI that does deserve your respect. I'll tell you what I find the most interesting about intelligent constructs. Their inception. Is a construct born? Well, no, they're constructed. By who or what is where this varies. Some are built by hobbyists out of passion, others by corporations for war. We'll get into more specific origins when we cover individual characters, but for now we just need to understand that intelligent constructs begin their lives in a workshop or assembly line with what is known as a logic core. You can think of a logic core as a machine's brain. I say machine because logic cores are installed on all intelligent machinery, including Bangboo. This doesn't make Bangboo intelligent constructs, as we'll discuss soon. True to its name, a logic core is how a construct is able to logically understand the world. It does the processing, thinking, and is what allows what would otherwise be a metal chassis to live. In fact, you can even think of a logic core as the construct's soul. Much like humans, not all logic cores are built the same. For instance, Billy's logic core very much reflects human behaviors. He enjoys cartoons, likes having fun, shows kindness and restraint. Meanwhile, right beside him is Emilian, whose logic core is like a feral pet. That's not to say all Bangboo are like that though. Some, such as Eos or even Lockspring, have qualities that place them near the same intelligent level as intelligent constructs. They are, however, a different beast and as such, will be covered in their own video. This video is about intelligent constructs, after all, not just logic cores. While most cores simply act as brains for their hosts, some have more implemented in them. Constructs created by the Defense Force all have what's called the Iron Order installed on their logic cores. It's an underlying prime directive that ensures all NEDF constructs follow their superiors' orders. The only way for a construct to break free from the Iron Order is for it to destroy its own logic core. The only known case of this happening was with Seed Senior. While all Defense Force constructs have logic cores, most of them appear to possess little to no sentience, only acting on the orders given to them. There's little to gain from giving killing machines a conscience, which is another thing that made Seed Senior so unique. For an intelligent construct to become a citizen of New Eridu, it must pass a test called the Forbidden Fruit Test. As best I can tell, passing the test doesn't necessarily make a construct a citizen. It appears to just be proof of the construct's sentience and is then what allows them to register for citizenship. There's no information on what the test entails, but we can extrapolate from what we do know. It's clearly the New Eridu equivalent of the real-life Turing test, a test of a different title but similar goal, to determine if a machine possesses intelligence and the ability to think like a human. Looking at the name Forbidden Fruit, we can pretty safely assume it refers to the biblical story of Adam and Eve and the fruit they were told not to eat. From this, it seems that the Forbidden Fruit test has something to do with a machine thinking beyond the boundaries set by its creators. If it's explicitly told not to eat the fruit, does it have the sapience to choose to anyway? Any machine with a logic core has the capacity to pass the Forbidden Fruit test. Even the Belobog Intelligent Heavy Machinery has passed the test. At this point, these machines are legally recognized by New Eridu law as intelligent constructs. They're entitled to the same rights as any other race, rights we would consider human rights, such as it being illegal to open someone up to access their internals. Basic human rights. But unfortunately, this means that if an intelligent construct's Forbidden Fruit test certification was tampered with, the legal rules could be sidestepped. Without verification of an intelligent construct's test status, they can't be considered a legal person. This is exactly what happened with Vesper. Topps Entertainment locked away her Forbidden Fruit certification, and through this legal loophole, it allowed them to treat her as a piece of property. Most constructs do start as property. Some are brought into the world for things like entertainment, like how Vesper was once a VDTX unit. Many are brought into the world for war. But no matter how they started, they can all take the Forbidden Fruit test, become a citizen, and start a new life. They have that right. Though of course, what's a race humans are unfamiliar with without some good old-fashioned racism? Yeah, some people are racist to constructs, especially the ones built for combat. Intelligent constructs will face discrimination from people who aren't very willing to accept that they're capable of change. At least in this case, concern is a little more understandable because, yeah, these were machines built for killing. Intelligent construct threat theory was a real fear for people living in Eridu. And I say Eridu because the theory fizzled out as people realized intelligent constructs really were people now. In city life, constructs can be seen doing things any normal person would do. They have jobs, they own stores, and need to recharge the same way a human would sleep to regain energy. While they don't need to eat food to survive, some can still eat for pleasure. I say some because, well, not all constructs have mouths. Without the need for sustenance and a biological body, a construct's lifespan can theoretically be as long as it desires. With proper maintenance, their mechanical body can have parts refreshed and replaced indefinitely. The only thing to worry about is the degradation on the logic core. Maybe not physically, but mentally. Watching those you love grow up and die can take its toll. Maybe we'll get a story like that in the future. I can see something there with Sunbringer. Now it's time to get into the meat. I know you've been waiting for this. Let's go through the intelligent constructs that we know of, starting with the playable characters. It'd be wrong not to start with Billy. Billy Kid is implied to be very old, likely created before the time of even Eridu. It's unclear what his original purpose was, though Lighter seems to suggest in a line of dialogue that he could be a construct designed for combat. His body was found in the lost tech ruins of the Outer Ring by a merchant named Apon? He rolled with the Sons of Caledon biker gang, donning a red scarf and becoming their combat champion. During this time, he grew close to the other members, including Big Daddy and Caesar King. In fact, Caesar's prosthetic arm was originally a spare one from Billy. Eventually, he moved on from his time with the Sons of Caledon and relinquished the red scarf to Lighter. He made his way to New Eridu, where he met Nicole Damara and joined the odd job agency, the Cunning Hares. That brings him to today. Billy is a silly guy. One of his reasons for leaving the Sons of Caledon seems to be that he wanted to indulge in simpler things, like his love for the Starlight Night show. However, this doesn't stop him from getting jobs done. He uses 2 pistols that might honestly have logic cores in them.
Hey, did you hear? We're getting some gun oil. Hope it's the thick, rejuvenating one.
I'd rather get the lighter oil. It absorbs faster.
We're not going to talk about that. Something to note about his appearance is that he has hair. Yeah, a robot with hair. Except this hair serves a very important purpose. It acts as a heat sink. This probably applies to other constructs too, so if you see hair, it's not just for looks. 01 Neo Genesis 6 was an intelligent construct from the old civilization, before Eridu. When rediscovered in recent times, a White Star Institute researcher misread this label and wrote it down as Qingyi. Qingyi went on to join the Public Security Force and, even more recently, joined the Criminal Investigation Special Response Team under her current boss, Zhu Yuan. According to Ferry, Qingyi is a special type of intelligent construct made partially out of biological material called an automaton. This explains Qingyi's much more human-like appearance compared to other constructs. She's still very much one though, as she has even modified herself for her benefit. For instance, her hair twin tails are nanostatic eliminators, which help her eliminate background static around the city. Because of Qingyi's age, she displays very traditional behaviors and beliefs. Hot water is something you'll always hear her talking about. The health benefits and how it helps you stay young. She's also very laid back, as if she's seen everything there is to see. There's a theory that she knew Phaethon was a proxy from the moment she met them, but never said anything because they were using their power for good. Magus is the only character we'll discuss today that wasn't always an intelligent construct, though calling her the same as her past self is a sentiment up for debate. Orpheus, codename Magus, once served as a soldier in the Agamemnon squad of Obsidian Division. At some point during her service, she was used as a template body for biological cloning. One of these clones would end up becoming Elfy. During the fall of the old capital 11 years ago, Magus suffered grievous injuries, a fate somehow not as gruesome as the rest of her squad. Left with no options, Magus became the subject of a Defense Force research project where her consciousness would be uploaded into a weapon, making her an intelligent construct. There's a conversation to be had about whether or not this can be considered the same Magus or if it's just a collection of memories that thinks it's Magus. She is capable of dreaming, and Elfy even describes the construct as containing her soul. This is an established philosophical debate, and there's a Wikipedia article on mind uploading if you're curious to read more. For Magus's case, her body was dying regardless, so this was really her only choice. Her clone, Elfy, would don Magus on her tail and wield her as a weapon. The two would found Obel Squad, with Magus as captain. They would recruit Trigger, Seed, and Soldier 11 to their ranks. Those under Magus's command would learn to get used to her brazen personality. She's a complete hothead, with questionable loyalty to her superiors at times, but it is because of Obel Squad's unorthodox style that they're one of the Defense Force's most valuable assets. Another one of Obel Squad's members is Seed. Unfortunately, I have to call him Seed Senior now because an actual child enlisted in the military that does not wear shoes took his name. Maybe one day I'll talk about that. We spoke a bit about Seed Senior earlier in the video because he is the only known Defense Force construct that had, essentially, the will to overpower his core programming. When patrolling the ruins of the old capital, he happened upon a young girl. For reasons unknown, Seed's targeting systems flagged her as a high-risk individual and attempted to eradicate her. Through Seed's eyes, all he saw was an innocent child. It was in this moment that he broke free from the Iron Order and doomed himself to die. Seed spent his remaining time raising the girl, protecting her, teaching her. He would tend to her the same way he would tend to his flowers, a hobby that he had indulged in while off duty. When Seed felt his time was running low, he joined Magus's Obel Squad to give the young girl the closest thing she could have to a family. As Seed fell into a forever slumber, the girl would inherit his name and pilot his chassis for combat. Now, Seed Senior is only a lifeless metal body. In this state, perhaps he can't even be called an intelligent construct. But let's not think about the implications of that. Here's a fun one. Banyue cannot legally be considered an intelligent construct. He's never taken a forbidden fruit test. Banyue's original body predates Eridu and hails from the old civilization. His designation was Purge Unit Type 0, a combat frame designed by Tops for miasma suppression by any means necessary. This often meant slaughter en masse. One day, a mission went awry, and Tops being Tops decided to discard him in Lemnian Hollow. His body was found by a quote-unquote sage hailing from Marcel Group, who tinkered with his logic core to grant him intelligent life. This character is widely theorized to be either Sunbringer or someone directly related to Sunbringer, though it's also outright said that Ning Chen's sister, Ning Shu, was the one to discover Banyue in the Hollow and bring him back to life, and she's dead, so I'm genuinely not sure what to think. The best middle ground assumption is that the sage made the edits to his core but didn't awaken him, and it was Ning Shu who reactivated him at a later point. After awakening, Banyue would find his way to a local mining town, where his interactions with the residents would cause him to develop human emotions, even overriding his original prime directive of solely eliminating miasma. Serenity only lasts so long, however. A miasma outbreak caused the majority of the town's inhabitants to lose their lives. Banyue saved some, but was forced to abandon most because their chances of survival were too low. Misunderstanding following this event caused many to look upon him with disgust, and because of the shame he felt, he never tried to explain what really happened. He would go on to start a new life as the Grandmaster of his own martial arts school, becoming friends with the current Grandmaster of Yunquei Summit, Yi Xuan, and teaching some martial arts basics to disciples like Ye Shengguang and Ye Shuiyuan. After the events of Season 2, Chapter 5, Banyue was presented with an ultimatum by Dylan and chose to join the Krampus Compliance Authority, where he stands to this day. Banyue is a stoic and unshaken construct. He stands tall as a mountain and walks with the resolve of a lion. because of his age, he holds great wisdom, but is also extremely out of touch with modern customs. The lion does not concern himself with Twitter. Aria may not strike you as an intelligent construct at first. Who am I kidding? Is there anyone who doesn't know she's a robot? The story didn't even care about the reveal, it just ran with it. The Aria we know now is nothing like what she was originally created for. AH-0L0 type intelligent tactical constructs were created and deployed by the military in a bygone era. Also called Mirage Archer units, they used energy to attack via archery and create illusory holograms to deceive. Aria once carried out missions for the military, but over time she grew a distaste for the pain she was inflicting. For unknown reasons, the military tossed away all H0L0 models and left them to rust in a hollow. Almost like an alarm clock, Aria was woken by a passing holo raider playing a song from idol Circe. Her voice resonated with Aria so much that, after making her way to New Eridu to begin a new life, she tuned her voice to match Circe's as closely as possible. This allowed her to secure a job impersonating Circe because of Circe's inability to perform, which eventually led to Aria being approached by Nangong to join Angels of Delusion. With her idol group, she uses her Mirage ability to project a human depiction of herself in place of her construct body. When in this form, Aria is outgoing and energetic. She's the silly idol we all know her as. She's much more confident in herself when only showing what she wants to show. When the projection drops, so does her self-esteem. She becomes timid, ashamed of the lie and of what she used to be. Except this is the story of all intelligent constructs. Rebirth. The past cannot be changed. The only Aria is the Aria now. Now I know what you're thinking. Actually, I don't. Hui falls under the playable characters category because he is Zhu Fufu's main weapon. Yes, this guy is an intelligent construct. His name comes from a character from the movie The Demon Vanquishing Tiger. The protagonist was a tiger Thyran named Hu Weiwei and was Zhu Fufu's childhood hero. Hui is, well, he makes popcorn. This is never acknowledged in the world, but it can be observed in Zhu Fufu's combat animations. Hui is described as being a clay tiger, as well as a magical artifact. This is likely hyperbole, if I had to guess, though Hui does breathe fire and tends to make a mess of things with his rowdy temper. Despite this, his relationship with his master is strong. Wherever Fufu goes, Hui is with her. And now, moving on to the NPCs, we start with Tin Master. Or rather, Tin Masters. Tin Masters are an intelligent construct model that serve as the sole employee at each Coff Cafe around New Eridu. It all started as one Tin Master serving coffee from a cart. Its popularity grew so much that over 60 stores opened since then, with dedicated Tin Masters for each. They are coffee aficionados, so much so that they're in it for the craft and the art more than anything. After all, this is quite literally what they were born for. The Tin Master we know on 6th Street is among the most famous, as he was ranked 3rd best of all Coff Cafes in the city. Just like all of 6th Street's shop owners, this Tin Master has a very close relationship with the others. One of those others is Elfy, owner of the Bardic Needle record store. She has a profound interest in music and is a very elegant and introspective person. She thinks deeply on the relationship between man and machine. Elfy has connections to many music artists, including the likes of Astra Yao, who she is even able to provide song recommendations to. Just a cool thing to note is that her hair is a phonograph. Nothing could be more fitting for a music store owner. Over in Luminous Square is Old Duyi, owner of a massage parlor named Old Duyi's Physiotherapy Studio. He's a unique construct with 6 arms and a really tough shell that can take hard hits. Everyone that knows him praises him for his work, as he is very experienced with his craft, servicing humans as well as Thyrans and intelligent constructs. Since constructs don't need physical therapy, his service for them consists more of maintenance. Make no mistake, they still feel the same overwhelming sense of relief once it's all finished. Some feelings transcend form. Conrad and Sandy are 2 intelligent construct employees working at the Lumina Branch Public Security Bureau as a part of the General Affairs Department. They're recent hires relative to the time we see them, and ever since they were hired, the office saw a massive uptick in productivity and organization. While intelligent constructs do behave like humans, They still have superhuman cognition and are able to apply themselves to tasks like a computer would. On the opposite side of Lumina is Yi, owner of ZZZ Studio. Yi is sort of like a self-insert for the game's composers, with them even dressing up as him for live music events. The song Come Alive exists in-universe and was written by him. On top of music, he also makes art and has a unique design style that is fueled by the inspiration we give him. He's actually got such an eye-catching style that he attracted the attention of Astri Yao and landed a deal. Oh, also, this took me way too long to realize, but the store name, Sanzi, yeah, San is 3 in Chinese. Sanzi, triple Z, ZZZ. Now let's move over to Phylum Heights, where we meet Vince, the closest thing to Melanin this game has, and the owner of Devon Pawn Shop. Vince has a daughter, a human one. Adopted, of course. He actually opened his shop as a means of making money to allow her to go to school, though he's become so preoccupied by it that he doesn't spend much time with her. Next time you're down there, buy a couple things and let Vince spend a weekend with his daughter. Lee is an employee at Yumchasin who bears a striking resemblance to Bruce Lee. He's a pretty normal guy and we don't have much to learn from his limited interactions. I'm sure he's fun at parties. Especially topical right now is Vesper, actor and singer under Tops Entertainment. We briefly touched on her earlier with how she's treated as Tops Entertainment property through legal loopholes. She's a VTDX model, a model designed specifically for entertainment purposes. Tops Entertainment built her to be the perfect idol with a perfect voice and a love for the stage. This love, however, was eventually sullied by the corporatization of her work. She was being exploited. Her anger reached its height when, while under the influence of intelligent entity yokai, she attempted to sabotage the Yearlight ceremony on Gilded Carrot Day. Aria and Phaethon placated her, and now Vesper is left in an unsure position. With any luck, she'll be able to return to the stage with the love she began her journey with. Oh, one last thing. Vesper is a word that refers to the evening star, a fitting name for an intelligent construct star. Now here's a funny one. There was this side quest in 1.2 where you helped a dude in the Outer Ring with his intelligent construct car named Sleip. Sleip? I can't go back and record footage of this, so just take this screenshot courtesy of the Zenless Zone Zero Wiki. Yeah, Sleip was a talking car that had a pretty flamboyant personality, which can be attributed to a fantasy voice pack setting the owner set it to. Anyways, the whole thing feels like it has to be a reference to the American 80s TV show Knight Rider, where the protagonist has a sentient jet black car named Kit. I seriously wonder how many Zenless players would even know what Knight Rider is. There are some characters that almost undoubtedly fall under the intelligent construct label, but aren't officially directly confirmed to. The only real contender for this is the Belobog intelligent heavy machinery. Hans, Greta, Friday, and Jeroy, to name a few. It's implied they've all passed the forbidden fruit test, despite it seeming like there was never an opportunity for that to happen? I don't know. These machines certainly display a sentient nature and would most likely pass as full-fledged intelligent constructs. I just won't make any absolute calls. Do correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. I have to scrub so much information and it's very possible I missed something. Now I can't prove anything, but like, Sage in a Barrel could be an intelligent construct. Either the dude in the can or the can itself. Just thought I'd mention him since it's not possible. The rest of these characters are ones that you might think to call intelligent constructs, or at least question the possibility of them being one, but have details that lead me to believe they are not. Starting with the big ones, intelligent entities, i.e. fairy and yokai. Part of an intelligent construct is the construct. Without a physical body, intelligent entities can only be considered thus. However, there's more that leans me in the direction of them not qualifying. Fairy is implied to not have passed a forbidden fruit test, as seen in a now gone event called JoJo's Space Mystery. The exact quote is as follows: "Since JoJo hasn't undergone the forbidden fruit test, I don't know if it is capable of love. But since I can feel lonely at the thought of not being needed by Master, then JoJo's love must be true too." The logical conclusion Fairy assumes us to make in that sentence is that she hasn't passed the test either. And of course, no test, no intelligent construct. Though fairy and yokai may seem like sentient beings, it's possible they're just not there yet. Bangboo are a big topic, so much so that I'm not even gonna bother delving into them in this video. What you need to know is that they can exhibit human-like behavior and cognition, but they are treated separately from intelligent constructs. If we call back to the quote from the JoJo Space Mystery event, it seems that Bangboo passing the Forbidden Fruit test is very much a real thing. I'd wager it's uncommon though, because Bangboo are more so used almost as pets. You may be inclined to think the Silver Soldier replicas are intelligent constructs. To be honest, this one is more of a we don't have evidence going either way. They're in this middle ground between clone and construct where they have biological parts that can be replaced and harvested, yet also have pseudo-digital tendencies like their fragile memory. They can also be seen short-circuiting. To be honest, I don't know what label they'd fall under. So let's just call them what they are. Replicas. Anton's bro is not an intelligent construct. I thought I'd mention Nekomata because I've seen some discussion surrounding her tails and the barcode on her forehead. The tails look kind of mechanical, but other Thyrans like Jane have similar augments, so they can probably be ignored. The barcode is interesting, but that's about all we can say about it. The odds are more likely that it's just for looks and isn't meant to imply anything. And finally, all the enemy machines we face in combat. These all have logic cores, but almost certainly have not passed the Forbidden Fruit test, and thus cannot be considered intelligent constructs. The Defense Force and Rebel factions deploy Guardians, Lightfoot Rovers, Heavy Strikers, Shielded Defenders, Typhon models, and Terror Raptors. Tops sees the use of the security units Medium Patroller, Light Patroller, and Security Enforcer. And Hollow Raiders have created the illegal combat units Lumberjack and Enraged Sweeper. The Sweeper has a PubSec variant, but it is not listed in the enemy archive. These machines are not sentient, but that just means they won't care about your well-being. This video ended up being a massive project. Majority of the time spent working on it was purely research, and I have the godsends at the Zenless Zone Zero Wiki to thank for that. I kid you not, they've transcribed like 95% of the game's text, which on its own allows you to search keywords in what is essentially a massive database. But they also went the extra mile to make it look good. I cannot thank the editors enough, and I wish there was something I could do to support them. The most I can say is join their Discord, which is linked on the wiki. And while you're at it, join my Discord in the video description for lore and more. My name has been Glastic. Thank you for watching. Heed the Hollow's call,